mammoth or whatever. I'm sorry? Yeah, a cougar or something like that. And it happened at that one place. You'll probably always, those guys always remember this is the place where that animal was, and it was really scary. So that's important for survival, okay? Having students become emotionally engaged in their learning also helps them remember. And ways that we can do that is to make that really become important to them. That's why we want to use play, all right? Project-based learning, because a project is something that they're invested in, it's part of them, it's something that they're proud of. It's not, I started this 20 minutes ago and now I'm done. It's something, I started working this 3 days ago, I want to get this thing finished. Use role playing, I do a lot of that in my classroom. They take on roles of characters, especially with science and social studies. Discovery-based learning, discovering something is emotional. They become invested in that. However, too much emotion can cause a kid to freak out or to kind of impede learning. It depends on the emotion too. Okay, if it's terror, that's an emotion, but you're not going to be learning when you're terrified because you're just going to try to get away. So that's not going to help you learn at all. Okay. It's been a while since our last head check, so discuss with somebody the difference between rote rehearsal and elaborate rehearsal, and think of times when each would be useful.
So rote rehearsal is when you're just acquiring a skill like learning the lyrics of a song or a poem or something, and like the way we teach the children, sequencing of numbers 1 to 20 to a poem or the ABCD song. Elaborate is like the learning process, storytelling. Yeah, really big.
Or just simple repetition.
Yep, simple repetition.
What does rote actually mean?
Rote?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why'd you ask that question?
Why do you have no answer for any question I ask? I'm very idiot. You have no answer.
So I'm not very smart, that's why. What does rote mean?
Now I know why the presentation took you so long.
Let me ask these people. You said, do you know what the word rote actually means?
Rote, what it actually means?
Yeah, the word rote. Rote? She doesn't know either. She's making this all up.
Oh, no.
No, she's not. She does know. It means it's just repetition, right?
Yeah, repetition.
Repetitive.
Yeah, repetition.
Rote. See? I didn't know, but I found out.
The rote states and the rote rehearsal. So,
All right.
what do you see?
So coming back to our model here, stimulus coming into our sensory memory, most of which goes into immediate decay because it's not at all meaningful, not what we're looking for. Okay, we're in charge of our attention and perception as we get older. We've got metacognition. Okay, it winds its way through the attention and perception, becomes part of working memory. Okay, we then process it either rotely by repeating it over and over again, or elaboratively by making meaning out of it by connecting it to ideas we've already got. Okay, if we don't do that, it's sure to be forgotten, completely lost. That's why we can teach kids. We can act like we're teaching kids. We can tell kids, and then we ask them the next day what we learned. And if I can just go a little bird walk here. When I used to teach social studies out of the textbook, I would do that. We would read the books together. I would talk about the information in that together, but it had absolutely nothing. They had no connection because it was the first time they'd heard a lot of this information. It didn't mean anything to them. It wasn't particularly interesting. And I would give these tests every 6 weeks, and they would all do horribly, even the kids that supposedly studied. So then I switched to curriculums for social studies, and I started using this thing called Story Path, where the kids actually become involved in a story that I, as a teacher, would kind of control and direct, and we would learn about, important historical events or about how communities and civics works. And I would give them a test on that, and they would do brilliantly, okay, because they were connected in what was going on. Okay, it wasn't forgotten or lost. So long-term memory is essentially, it's what we've gotten and we're not going to lose. It's like when you think about your father or your mom or your grandma, okay, or the place where you grew up, that's your long-term memory, okay? And there's actually two different kinds of long-term memory. One of them is called procedural memory, and that's the knowledge of how to do procedures, how to do things, like riding a bike, walking, okay, reading, tying your shoes, okay? That's memory with records. You know how to do it, but you can't put it into words. Like if I was to tell somebody over the phone how to throw a baseball, I really couldn't, because you're gonna have to show them, or at least have a picture available so they can see, oh, okay, that's how you put your arm, and that's how you do it, okay? It's a procedure, okay? Getting procedural memory into long-term storage involves the prefrontal cortex, also the parietal cortex and the cerebellum, okay? And that's getting back to the guitar thing. After learning that and doing that for such a long time, at some point, the skills mostly move into the motor cortex, and your cerebellum can tell the motor cortex what to do, and you can play the guitar without really thinking about it. Reading and writing, however, do use the visual cortex. You're kind of always using the occipital cortex. That's what I meant as occipital cortex. Okay?
Images sink in a lot faster than words, right?
I'm sorry?
Images sink in a lot faster than words, isn't it?
They do, yeah. As long as the image is meaningful to you.
Right.
Yeah, you understand what's going on.
Does that have any,
Picture is worth way more than 1,000 words.
yeah.
Yeah, a billion words.
Does that fit into any of your?
I'm going to be talking about that. That's,
you will be.
Yeah, that's actually has a lot to do with because images are processed in your visual cortex, your occipital cortex. That's a tool that teachers use all the time, and I'll talk about that, how that implications in the classroom. Is there? Go ahead.
Actually, by encouraging somebody or by giving positive feedback, does that not also make retention easier?
It does, because it's an emotional thing, okay? Yeah, it's all by the same thing. If you give somebody really negative feedback, they remember that too, because the emotions that are involved. If you ignore somebody, then they forget it. So the best thing to do when somebody's wrong is just to walk away. Is there something? Okay, that was a comment. Okay, so that's procedural memory. That's basically motor memory, how to do things. Declarative memory is something that you can either read or you can write. Okay, and there's actually two kinds of that. There's by this I mean you can actually explain to somebody over the phone this kind of memory. Okay, you can tell somebody where you were born or what your house looked like without having to show them. They don't need a picture. Okay. And there's episodic memory. This is the kind that's real iffy. We think we know, we think we remember more about stuff that happened to us than we really do. Because see, when things happen to you, you store it in certain spots. For example, you've got a beautiful shirt or a blouse, or beautiful, what is that? Okay. On, and if I look at that right now and say, oh, there's this woman in my class and she was really smart, she had great questions, she had this beautiful yellow dress on, and then I go back and later on talk to my wife, say, how'd your session go? Oh, it's pretty good, but I filed, what I'm doing is I'm going to file the information. I'm going to file that dress with yellow, okay? I'm going to file her hair with the black, okay? She's got glasses on top of her head, so all this image of her sitting there is filed in different spots all over my mind, okay? Her voice and all of that. But when I recall, I'm not going to bring up a real clear picture of every aspect of that lady because I don't need to. I'm going to come up with some things. I'll probably forget the fact that she had glasses on, the fact that she's got some green and purple with her dress, what her shoes look, but I'll probably remember the yellow. So you don't remember everything. Then you fill in the rest. So my wife might say, oh, she had a yellow dress on? Is it all yellow? I'll go, yeah, it was all yellow. Well, it isn't. So you just remember certain things. And then if I said, okay, yeah, it was completely yellow, then what happens is that's how you remember it. So all of a sudden the memory of her becomes what I actually came back up with. Everything okay?
Where do mnemonics fit in?
Mnemonics fit in?
Memory, talking about memory, using mnemonics in the classroom.
Where would mnemonics fit in?
That's what I'm asking. Would they help long-term memory?
They would, because, and I'll get back into that, but it's mnemonics is where you attach information either to a picture or something that's verbal.
Action or
Yeah, an action. So you're actually taking something, and you're transferring it. It's a way of doing like rote rehearsal, because you're not actually processing the information, but you're trying to remember specific information, either using visual mnemonics or auditory mnemonics. Like you might want to make something sound the way. And we're going to get into that a little bit too. All right, so long-term memory. Remember that memory at the cellular level. Most researchers conclude that a memory consists of a strong connections between neurons in a particular network. Okay, so when you access those memories, it causes those synapses to actually grow and get richer. So there's actually, it's the connections that wind in and out of your brain between different neurons. That is actually the biological entity of a memory. Okay, and to access those things causes the connections between all those neurons to become stronger and to actually grow. Okay, so when you remember something, you're actually breaking it down into its components and file it accordingly. So you've got red. So every time you think of something that's red, it comes up with that connection. Now, when you go to recall something, okay, you bring it back in bits and pieces. You go back and you go through those different parts of your brain where all that that imagery and all was stored, and you bring it back, and it doesn't always come back the way you first filed it. So you fill the blanks in, okay? And there's also something called consolidation. Researchers have found that it takes a certain amount of time for memory to actually sink in, okay? If you keep giving new information to people at any age, they can't take it all in. They need time. It needs time to sink in. Sometimes you have to wait before you actually know something. Okay, and you replay certain events, and that strengthens the neural connections. And they've also found a lot of that's going on in sleep. They think that the reason why human beings sleep every day isn't so much just to let your body stop working for a while. It's for what's going on in your mind is that you're actually consolidating memories. You're replaying certain events in your mind. That's why you end up dreaming about what you did the previous day a lot of times. You're replaying stuff, and it's a way of rehearsal. You're rehearsing what happened to you throughout the day, so you remember it. That's, by the way, why